Hey everyone, welcome to today's tutorial. I'm Daniel. I'll be taking you through building the logic of a Hangman game using Python and Java. So I'm sorry it started a bit late. We had some technical difficulties, so I'll try to get through as much as possible. And I think I'll start with Java because that will be the one that's going to take more time. Cool. So the Hangman game, these are some guidelines for playing a Hangman game. So you have two players. Player one will enter a word and player two will attempt to guess the word by entering letters or the entire word. Then player two will have 8 tries to guess the word. So this is kind of changeable. You can have any amount of tries that you want. But for this version, I'm gonna have 8 tries in the code. So the word to guess is represented by dashes corresponding to each letter in the word. If player 2 guesses correctly, the dash is replaced by the letter. And if player 2 guesses incorrectly, the number of tries decreases by 1. So the game ends when player 2 runs out of tries or player 2 guesses all of the letters in the word. Cool. And let me know if you are able to hear me. I hope so. So I think I'm going to skip forward to the demo, the Hangman in Java, because just for time purposes. Okay, thank you, Clarinda. So I'm going to share my screen and then we'll go through creating the logic of a Hangman game in Java. Okay, cool. So I've got a REPL open here at the moment. It's got the basic Java class and the Java main method. And I think for now, we'll just be coding everything in the main method. And then if we have time, we will be extracting functionalities into functions as you do in Java. So the first thing, we are going to have to accept input from both players so we can declare a scanner object. Let me just have a look. Okay, so I'll enlarge my screen a bit. Okay, thank you, Clarinda. Does that look a bit better now? Okay, awesome. So we can declare a scanner object. First, we'll have to import our scanner. So the scanner is part of the Java utilities library, which we can import to use in our program. And the cool thing is we can either type it as scanner like that, or we can import all the classes from the utility library using an asterisk. So I usually just do that. So then any class that I'll need from the utilities library will be available. So to create a scanner object, we define a data type called scanner and then an object name. So I'll call it SC is equal to new scanner system.in. So this new scanner system.in is a call to the scanner constructor, and it will construct a scanner object in our main method. So now we can declare some variables to use in our program. So going back to the description of the Hangman game, I mentioned that um, there will only be 8 guesses for player 2 to guess a word. So we can create an integer variable called guesses remaining. And we can give it a value of 8. And there are quite a few variables that we'll be using in this solution. So for now, I think let's get on with the logic, and then I'll create variables as it's needed and explain why we need those variables. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get input from player 1. So let's create a print statement asking player 1 to enter a word. So yeah, and then I think I'll use the print line version of this so that there's a new line character appended after this. And then I'll get input from the user and store it in a variable. So we'll need a variable that will store player 1's word. So I'll create a string variable and I'll call it target word. And then I'll use the scanner object to assign a value to the target word variable. And next line is how you would ask scanner to accept a string input from the user. And then we'll also need to determine the length of the word or the number of characters in this target word so that we can then print out the correct number of dashes for player 2. So let's create a variable and we'll call it, let's call it word length. And then we can assign word length a value of the length of the target word. So to do that, we can use the length function. Cool. So now we can print out our output for player 2. So to do that, we'll have to loop through each of these letters one by one and print out a dash sign. So we can use a for loop to do that. So a for loop is a repetition structure in Java, and it's best used when we know exactly how many times we want to repeat a section of code. So we know that we want this for loop to repeat for the number of letters in the target word, or for this word length value. So we can use word length to control the repetitions of this for loop. Cool. And this is the syntax for creating a for loop. It's got a variable declaration part where we assign a value to a variable that we've created. And this is a control statement which determines how long this loop will repeat. And this increments our variable so that eventually this loop will end. Cool. So inside of this for loop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to store the output that we are going to print to player 2 in a variable. So I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it string. And then I'll use word after last guess as a variable name. And I'll assign it an empty string value. And this is because we'll be modifying this string. So we have to create a place in memory for it so that we can add a new value to it on each loop. So the way this looks is we have word after last guess, and then we use the plus equals operator to add a dash symbol. So the plus equals operator basically says, I want to take the previous value of this variable and add this value to that. So it's kind of the same as saying word after last guess is equal to word after last guess plus dash. Cool. So on each loop of the for loop, this value will be added to the previous value of this for loop. So at the end, we'll have we'll have these dashes stored in this word for the which corresponds to the letters in target word. Cool. So once we have that, we can begin with the logic of our Hangman game. So ideally, this game should repeat while either player two still has guesses remaining, or while the word has not yet been guessed. So we can use a while loop to repeat that section of code. So a while loop is also a repetition structure in Java, and it's best used when we are not sure how many times we are going to have to repeat a section of code. So since we are not sure how long the game is going to take, we will use the while loop. So for now, I'm going to say while true. And then, so yeah, this value can actually be added to a variable. So then we can then change that variable name if we ever want this while loop to end. So I'm going to create a variable now. Yeah, cool. Yeah, but for now, I think let's get on with it because I see that we're running out of time. So I'm going to print out the variable that we created previously, word after last guess. So that'll print out these dashes representing the word guess. So this will be like the first line that prints on each repetition of the game. And then I'll have another print statement saying player two, you will have guesses remaining. Cool. So now we've asked player two to enter a guess, and we've indicated how many guesses they have remaining. So now we can use our scanner object to get a new guess from player two. So we need a variable to store player two's guess. So I'm going to create a variable now called guessword. Cool. So we have guessword is equal to sc dot next line, so that we can get string input from the user. Cool. So now that we have a guess from player two, we need to test if that guess matches any of the letters in player one's word. So to do that, we can have if-else if statements or if statements. Yeah. So firstly, I'm going to test if the guess word is bigger than one, because in Hangman, player two can either enter one letter or player two can enter the whole word to try and guess the whole word. So, for example, if they only had like one try remaining, but they had like three letters to guess in the word, they could enter the whole word instead of one letter. So, the first if statement I'm going to do is it's going to test if the guess is bigger than one. So if it's bigger than one, then the user or player two should have tried to guess the entire word. So to compare to string variables in Java, we use the dot equals function. So we can say guess word if guess word dot equals target word. And this will compare the string stored in guess word to the string stored in target word. Cool. So if guess word is equal to target word, then we can print out that the game is over and player two wins. And then what we'll need to do, so since we haven't declared a variable for our, or a condition for our while loop, so in order to make sure that it doesn't repeat forever, we can use the break keyword. And what the break keyword does is it breaks out of the nearest loop. So it's currently in this while loop. So this break statement, if it runs, will break out of this while loop. Cool. And then we can have an else statement matching this if statement. So if the guess word doesn't equal the target word, then we can have a for loop, which will loop through the length of the guess word and then evaluate whether the characters match with the target word. So to do that, we can have a for loop. And we can say I is less than guess word dot length. And then we can increment it. Cool. So ideally, if player two enters a guess, they shouldn't be able to guess the same letter multiple times. So to make sure that the yeah that they are only entering new letters on each play, we can create a variable which will keep track of the guess history. So I'm going to create a string variable called guess history. And I'm going to assign it a value of that. And then we can check if the index of the value entered by the user for guess word matches the index of the guessed history. So to do that, we can use an if statement. And we can use the index of function to see if, okay, I'm just going to type this out and then I'll explain it. Cool. So what this for loop is going to do, it has these integer values and it's going to loop for the length of guess word. Then it's going to check if the current character, so the char at function returns the index of the character in, yeah, so this is the index value and it will return that index value. So yeah, we are basically comparing the indexes of the letters stored in guess history and the letters stored in guess word. So if it's equal to -1, then it's not in, yeah, then guess word, the character in guess word is not in guess history. So then if it's not in guess history, we can add it to guess history. And then we can do the same for target word. So if this condition is equal to or returns -1, then we can also decrement our guesses. So guesses remaining minus equals 1 will subtract 1 from the previous value of guesses remaining. Then after that, we can reset our word after this guess variable to a blank string. And then we can then set it again using the updated guess words. So we'll have our for loop. And then we can say if target word dot char at, okay, so I'm actually going to rename this to J because ideally we are still in this for loop over there. So we can use both indexes in this if statement. So I'm going to rename this to J. So if target word dot char at J is equal to guess word dot char at I. So we are comparing if the index of char at J is the same, or the value at char at J, this index is the same as the value in the guess word. Then we can say word after this guess is plus equals guess word dot char at I. Let me just check that that's all correct. Cool. And then we can have an else statement, which will then use j as the value. Oh, cool. There's a message. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Thank you, Rida. So, cool. And then once that is done, what we can then do is we can assign the value of word after this guess. So word after this guess will store, I don't think I actually declared this one. Yeah, so we need a variable which we'll use to update the original word after last guess variable. So it's kind of like a temporary variable which stores the changes in the word. So we can create that variable, and I'll call it string word after this guess. Cool. And then the first for loop, sure. Okay. So I think for now, what I will do is I'll try and finish this logic, and then afterwards, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, and then afterwards, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to spend some minutes going through it. But for now, I'll just try and finish it as soon as possible. Yeah, so we started a bit late, so maybe we could have a follow-up tutorial which goes through doing the same in Python, but we'll see how it goes. So for now, where was I? Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign word, the value of word after this case. So word after this case keeps track of the updates to the word. I'm going to assign it to word after last case. Cool. And then once that is done, so we had our first if statement over here, which tests if the index of guessword.chart I matches the index of this one. So, well, yeah, if it has that condition. So we can have a matching else condition for this if statement. So else word after this guess. So over here, I'm initializing it to an empty string. In case it already has a different value, then we can say guess is equal to got char at 0. And then, okay, I'm just going to code it and then I'll go through it after I've done coding it. Cool. So if this if condition over here doesn't evaluate to true, then this else condition will run. And what it will do is it will check if this, what is this? Oh, I mean, not equals. Yeah, it'll check if this expression is true, and then it'll print out you have already guessed this guess. And then this continue statement will just cause the rest of the code to skip and it will repeat the while loop. So, mhm. And then I'm going to add that guess to the guess history. And then if the target word, sorry, I just did something else. Okay. If target word dot index of guess, then we can decrement the guesses remaining variable by 1. And then we can just follow the same procedure that we did over here to update the word of the last guessed variable. So at the moment, you can see that everything, all of the code so far is in the main method, and there's a lot of repetition of code. So ideally, when you create a Java program, we would extract functionalities into Java methods, and we would then work with those methods by calling them in the main method to control the flow of the program. So for now, I've just coded everything in the main method just to get the logic of it flowing. But yeah, ideally, this could definitely be neatened up. So for now, I'm just going to continue coding the logic. Cool. Yeah, so if this target word index is equal to the guess, then we can add that to this variable over here. or else we'd add yeah, the index at word after this guess. Sorry, word after last guess. And then, yeah, so that is that for loop. And then outside of this for loop, we can then assign the value of word after this case to word after last case. So as you can see, there is repeated code. And the cool thing about extracting your code into methods is that it results in less repeated code because you could then just call that method that you've declared or extracted your code into. You could just type that method name and call that code to run again. So yeah, let me finish up this algorithm. So the final part is to determine the winner. So we can have an if statement. We could say, I just want to check where this scope, this bracket is. Cool, so that's outside of the else statement. So outside of the else statement, if word after last guess dot index, and then we have this dash symbol. We can then print out word after last guess. And then game over, player 2 wins. And then we can break out of the for loop. So it's always important if you don't have a condition which will change and which will eventually end the for loop. If you use a Boolean variable like this, it's important to always either store it in a variable name so that you can change this value to false, or to use break statements at the appropriate points to break out of that while loop. And then else if cases remaining is less than or equal to 0. So if they don't have any cases remaining, then we can print out that player 1 wins. And then we can print out what the original word was. And our break statement. Yeah, and then the final step, I think I might have too many braces, but I'll double check that now. Yeah. The final step is to close our scanner object. So yeah, it's always good practice to close your scanner objects. I think it could have even been done before the while loop, since we only, no, I think we do use it. Yeah, we use it there. Cool. So yeah, the final step is to close our scanner object so that it causes no leakages in our program or memory leakages. So I think there'll probably be some syntax errors. I think my brackets are a bit messed up. Let me just check. Cool. Yeah. So there are some compilation errors in this program, and when you if you're programming in Java and you see these, it's kind of easy to fix them because it gives you the line numbers and it tells you exactly what's missing. So over here, I've left out semicolons, and yeah, I've left out some semicolons. So I'm just going to correct that now. Cool. So on line 58, I have, okay, I think this error is the quotes. Okay, so I forgot to declare the guess variable. Let me just, yeah, I meant to go through the variables as I used them in the program. I think I forgot. But yeah, so the guess is just a char variable. Yeah, we don't need to give it a value at the moment. So that will just store one character at a time. Let me just check if I have all the other ones. Target word. Yeah, I think let's see what happens. Okay, so I missed something there, and the line 38. So the okay, so it looks like we're running out of time. We have about 2 minutes, so I'll just finish up this tutorial, and then variable I is already defined. Cool. So I'll just maximize that and go a bit, zoom it a bit further in. Cool. So player one enter a word. I'm gonna enter any word, abracadabra, and then I've got these dashes over here representing each letter in the word. So player two, you have 8 guesses left. Enter a guess. So I'm gonna guess dead because I'm bad at guessing. Okay, so it looks like my guesses are not decrementing. Mm, I guess A, what happens? Okay, it's not updating for some reason. Okay. Okay, so I do have to move rooms now. I'm sorry, it looks like we're running out of time. So yeah, I don't know why it wasn't updating the guesses because I had those conditions over there. But I'll have a look at this code and I will provide the link to this repo so that you can also go over it. Um, yeah, just to finish up. So at the moment, the structure of it is a bit messy because we've got a lot of duplicate code and it's all in the main method. So that could be something that can be improved if you would like to go through this code and make any improvements. Yeah, and then I'll also provide a link to this repo for reference, and then I'll just make sure that it all works as well. And then hopefully, um, yeah, hopefully we can maybe have a follow-up one where we can maybe go through creating a graphic implementation of this game. So you'd have like the actual hangman drawing and you would, yeah. So I think for now that was a bit out of scope for this tutorial, but hopefully this has been informative and you can now have a better idea of how to create the logic of a hangman game. Yeah, thank you for joining.
Ayan, patay. O, dahil mo